Hello, everybody. Before we hand over to our moderator, Kayla, for this session, we're delighted to hear from one of our conference sponsors. I would like to welcome His Excellency, Mr. Ronaldo Costa Filho, Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Brazil to the United Nations, to say a few words.
Almost 10 years to this date, Resolution 66/149 was adopted, establishing World Down Syndrome Day. At that time, civil society organizations around the world mobilized to gather support for that text. Their advocacy helped to pave the way for a consensual resolution that was co-sponsored by 78 countries. We take this opportunity to recognize the work of Down Syndrome International in raising awareness to the challenges faced by persons with Down syndrome, while also celebrating their achievements. By fighting the stigma and discrimination, we are giving voice to persons with Down syndrome and to their families, as well as the chance to participate in society on equal terms. Persons with Down syndrome are often deprived of opportunities that the rest of us take for granted. Schools are not always adequately prepared to receive children with Down syndrome, and finding specialized healthcare is challenging outside major cities. Targeted government programs are often few and infrequent. In the times of COVID-19, this social divide has widened as persons with Down syndrome are considered 10 times more vulnerable to the effects of the virus than the average population. Every year, on World Down Syndrome Day, we are reminded of how much more remains to be done in order to fully integrate persons with Down syndrome in our societies. As government and citizens, we must address their particular needs while also working towards inclusion. And in this digital age, one cannot be fully included if he or she does not have access to the technologies needed to amplify their voices. This year's theme, Connect, is timely because it addresses the importance of including persons with Down syndrome not only in schools, in the workplace, in cultural activities, and in the decisions that affect their lives, but also in the virtual world, allowing them to freely express themselves online and offline. Digital inclusion contributes to the fight against discrimination as persons with Down syndrome become more visible. It also helps them to promote their unique skills and talents. Persons with Down syndrome are every day on the internet, sharing their work as actors, academics, journalists, entrepreneurs, politicians, YouTubers, public speakers, musicians, and athletes. They demonstrate on a daily basis that what holds them back is prejudice, not an extra chromosome. A pioneer in the promotion of the rights of people with Down syndrome, Brazil has learned from its own experience as well as best practices from countries around the world. The Ministries of Health and Education developed targeted guidelines to help local governments and the private sector to address the specific needs of the 300,000 Brazilians who have Down syndrome. Full inclusion, however, is a work in progress and will require continuous commitment from all levels of government and civil society. We celebrate World Down Syndrome Day with high hopes for the road ahead, cherishing the progress achieved. We are eager to join this year's events and discussions, and we are optimistic that in 2022 we will all be able to share our experiences in promoting the rights of persons with Down syndrome, not online, but in person. I thank you.
Hello, my name is Kayla McEwen, and I am the manager of grassroots advocacy at the National Down Syndrome Society, better known as the first registered lobbyist for Down syndrome here in the United States. Welcome to the 10th World Down Syndrome Day Conference at the United Nations in New York. It is being held to celebrate World Down Syndrome Day. This year it has to be a virtual event because of COVID-19. This event provides a platform for people with Down syndrome, supporters and advocates, government and UN officials, and NGO representation to work together. The theme this year is Connect for World Down Syndrome Day. This focus will be ensuring all persons with Down syndrome can connect and participate on an equal basis for others. This session is about how people with Down syndrome connect, the barriers faced, solutions found, and solutions being developed. It is the third session in this conference. Each session is being held as a webinar this year. A few things about this webinar for those of you joining us on GoToWebinar today. You can make comments or ask questions in the chat box. And if we don't get back to you during the webinar, we will get back to you soon as possible afterwards. There's a program and information for this event in the handout section. We would also like to ask you to complete a very short survey when you exit this webinar. We value your feedback. First off, I would like to welcome Andrew Boyce from the UK. He is the Executive Director of Down Syndrome International. Andrew is going to talk about connections, the barriers and solutions, what we have learned from COVID-19, and what we can do now.
Hello, everyone. Connections are key for people with Down syndrome to lead full, meaningful lives and to enable them to fully participate in all aspects of life. Connections enable others to hear their voice. This session today will highlight barriers and showcase good examples of solutions to connecting and what it can achieve. Some of these solutions are in use now, and some are in the process of being developed. The key thing to remember is that solutions only work if people with intellectual disabilities and Down syndrome have been involved in their development. Only in this way can we ensure that they will be of value and best meet their needs. Solutions are needed to maintain connection in all aspects of daily life, for social contacts with family and friends, to continue with education, to work, and to give people with Down syndrome a platform on which to advocate for their human rights. Like everyone else, people with Down syndrome across the world have been able to connect less in everyday life in the last 12 months. However, for many people with Down syndrome, the ability to connect has been affected disproportionately more than for others. Many have had to quarantine due to underlying health conditions commonly associated with Down syndrome or on the basis of their disability. And the quality of access to education, to work, and to other vital daily activities has often been severely reduced on the basis of their disability. To add to this negative impact, many have not been able to access information on an equal basis with others. Often, information that has been made available has not been provided in formats that people with Down syndrome can understand. Or if the information is online, they may not understand how to access this. Or they may not have access to the technology on which so many of us rely to connect in our day-to-day lives. Only about half of the world's population can access and use the internet. The other half cannot. Many of the unconnected live in least developed countries or in impoverished rural and remote areas. Furthermore, a digital divide persists between more and less connected communities and groups of people. People with intellectual disabilities and Down syndrome often fall within groups who have the least digital access of all. Our members with Down syndrome told us about the negative impact of COVID-19 through a survey we carried out last year. This survey was only able to take into account those who have access to the necessary technology, of course. But people reported less access to connecting in general. For example, seeing friends, going to school or working. But crucially, they also reported less support available to them to enable them to do their vital daily activities. The world has failed people with disabilities in the pandemic response, and a key reason for this is that they were not consulted in the response process. Now we need to make sure that their voices are heard, their views are taken into consideration, and that their human rights are upheld to build a better, more inclusive world from this point on. From our survey, we know that we conducted, we know that people with Down syndrome would like Down Syndrome International to help with this. 87% of people with Down syndrome surveyed said that they would find DSI organising meetings and advocating together online useful. In addition, 88% said that they would find information about COVID-19 that they can understand useful, and 100% said that they would find knowing what other people with Down syndrome have been doing during the pandemic useful. DSI will continue to work with our members and with international partners to give people with Down syndrome opportunities to connect and participate on a full and equal basis with others in all aspects of their lives. Being able to connect with others is a basic right. It's essential for personal well-being. We also know that people with Down syndrome can bring so much to the community wherever they live around the world, if given the opportunity. We will seek to understand and learn from people with Down syndrome who tell us about the challenges they face to connect, many of which have been made so much greater since the advent of COVID-19. And we will help to develop and build on solutions that are being found. In these current times, we'll work harder with our members to develop digital strategies, digital accessibility right now clearly being fundamental to deliver equal access to all of those vital things that we need in our lives. We will work to reduce the greater risk that people with intellectual disabilities and Down syndrome have of being left behind in this area. The most crucial thing we all must remember is to listen to, include, and empower people with Down syndrome so that we hear from them. We understand what works for them, and we can then develop responses and strategies around this. In this context, I'm now going to introduce DSI's National Representatives Group. This is a group of self-advocates from all around the world who work with DSI. We listen and take on board what they have to say about our work. They tell us about important issues that affect them around the world and discuss what is needed to improve their quality of life. Being part of our group also gives them an international platform to advocate for their human rights.
What is the Down Syndrome National Representative Committee?
Down Syndrome International have a committee that is made up of people with Down syndrome.
The national representatives meet once a month to discuss different subjects and conduct advocacy activities.
This group supports DSI with its work and helps to give the right direction.
What does a national representative do?
We speak on behalf of the people who have Down syndrome in our countries.
We are self-advocates. We speak up for our rights.
We discuss important topics that affect people with Down syndrome.
We give DSI our ideas, our advice, and our opinions on their work.
We make resources and training with the Down Syndrome International. We represent the DSI at international events.
We create change.
Who are the national representatives?
There are currently 28 national representatives from 28 countries.
DSI will grow this number because it is important that we hear from people who have Down syndrome from all areas of the world.
Why have a national representative committee?
How do organizations know what we want if they do not involve us in their work?
Well, we must be involved in decision making of the organization. So voices of people with Down syndrome are the forefront of the DSI's work. And this makes the Down Syndrome International accountable for what we think is important.
How to contact our national representatives?
You may want to highlight issues for the national representative to discuss.
Or ask our opinion on something.
Please email us at contact@ds-int.org.
Thank you. And with pleasure, I would like to introduce Sherry Breinard from South Africa, who is going to tell us a little bit about why the DSI National Representatives Group is important to her.
Hi, I'm Sherry Breinard and I come from Bloemfontein, a small town in South Africa. I normally have a very busy life as assistant teacher at a school for learners with special educational needs. During the week, I'm doing motivational speeches nationally and internationally during the weekends and holidays. When COVID-19 locked down all my activities, I could have become depressed. But then I received an invitation to be part of the DSI National Representative Group in these meetings. I have developed in many ways. First, my home language is Afrikaans, and we seldom need to speak English in Bloemfontein. With the virtual calls, I slowly developed more courage to speak English about things that matter to me. Second, Robert facilitated the meetings in a way that I never felt pressurized to speak, but he did give me the opportunity to voice my thoughts. Third, I learned more about the computer and virtual meetings than I would have without the DSI meetings. I developed skills and knowledge without any pressure. Fourth, I met adults from all over the world and we discussed our rights as human beings. My world became much bigger. I cannot thank DSI and Robin Gibson enough for the opportunity he gave us.
Thank you, Andrew, and the Down Syndrome International Representative Group. I would like now to welcome Colleen Hatcher and Candace Whiting from the National Down Syndrome Society in the United States. They're going to be talking about how the online coffee shop connects with South advocates during COVID-19.
Hi, everyone. My name is Colleen Hatcher, and I am the Senior Manager of Community Relations at the National Down Syndrome Society based out of the United States of America. Today, we're going to share a little bit about a program that we started during quarantine to help adults with Down syndrome in our communities. In March, the world changed for families living in the United States and families across the world. About a week into lockdown, one mom reached out to our team and expressed how her son was already struggling with quarantine, missing his routine and his social calendar. We knew that this was a common problem across our community. I personally have a friend with Down syndrome who is 24 years old. Prior to the pandemic, she was always attending events, workout classes, and acting lessons. I saw firsthand how quarantine was isolating for her. Our team at the National Down Syndrome Society wanted to create a space for virtual communication for adults with Down syndrome who are struggling during this time. We started hosting weekly coffee chats on Zoom. These calls are open to adults with Down syndrome across the United States. The coffee chat was designed to be an open forum for self-advocates to connect with their friends and meet new people. It also provides a means for us to check in on each other and help friends who might be struggling. You will hear from my friend Candace in a few minutes about how the coffee chats have helped her. Once we decided to start these weekly chats, we reached out to our network of self-advocates and invited them to join. We encouraged them to share this information about the calls with their friends as well. We also connected with the over 350 local Down syndrome organizations in the United States and encouraged them to share this information with their membership and adults in their community. The level of participation on these calls changes every week. On average, we have about 20 individuals who join us each week. As Candace can attest, sometimes it gets crazy. We make sure that each person who joins the call has time to share updates from their life and ask questions of the other chatters. Sometimes we have dance-offs, play bingo, and even host fashion shows. I will now turn it over to Candace to share more about the coffee chat from her perspective.
Thank you, Colleen. And my name is Candace Whiting. I am the CEO of Great Life Unlimited. It is a lifestyle consulting, motivational speaking, and mentoring business. For me, the coffee chats is about friendships and learning new things. I love getting to know new people around the world. I have made friends that I can talk to about what is going on in my life, especially during this pandemic. The coffee chats are very helpful for me because I don't get to see my friends often every day. So I really look forward to these coffee chats each week. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Candace, for sharing your story. We encourage you to start coffee chats in your own community. If you're interested in learning more about our coffee chat or how you can start one for your community members, please feel free to reach out to our team at NDSS. We are always happy to help. We also, Candace and I invite you to join one of our coffee chats. They're so much fun and we love having guests to be able to share the experience with. Thank you so much for listening to us today. Thank you so much for all that you do for the Down syndrome community, and happy World Down Syndrome Day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Colleen and Candace. The next speaker is Tatiana Nisheva from Downside Up in Russia. Tatiana's presentation is about the long-term distance family support program.
Hello, my name is Tatiana Nechaeva. I am Director of Family Support Center of Downside Up Charity Fund. The period of the pandemic was very hard for everybody, but people with disabilities and their families faced even more difficulties and stress than others. Usually in Russia, they are less socially active than an average family, and isolation made the situation even worse. Our fund follows next principles. Provide support taking into consideration family context, needs and capacities of each family. Interaction between specialists, parents, children, teenagers and adults with Down syndrome. To consider geographical location, resources available near the place where a family lives. During the pandemic, families were not able to attend face-to-face group sessions in the fund premises. Families not only from other cities, but also from Moscow couldn't come to our center for consultations. We had to adapt all our family support programs to an online format. The main difficulties that our beneficiaries faced were psychological. Parents felt fear for the health of their family members, especially children with Down syndrome. Parents experienced different emotions, spending a lot of time with their child one-to-one. Small apartments were not, where there is not enough space for all family members to study or work online. It is difficult to arrange family everyday life and interaction when it is necessary to spend all day indoors all together. Technical difficulties. Working with families, we had to consider individual characteristics and needs of parents, children, teenagers, and adults with Down syndrome. A communication channel and type of support were chosen based on families' preferences and possibilities. The online format of the sessions made it possible to include not only Moscow residents, but also residents of other Russian cities and Russian-speaking families from other countries. Main areas of family support during pandemic were individual and group psychological support for parents and adults with Down syndrome, online pedagogical consultations for families and online classes for children, teenagers, and adults with Down syndrome with parents' feedback, different kind of leisure activities and creative online classes for children, teenagers, and adults with Down syndrome. Downside Up got important experience. Currently, we combine all types of offline and online support. Our main priorities are to remain the high level of our services for families and make these services accessible to as many families as possible, especially for those who live in the remote areas. It is important for us to support all family members, not just children and adults with Down syndrome. On this slide, you can see our program objectives: psychological support, assisting parents in organizing everyday family and to arrange interaction among all family members, online training session, master classes, social and cultural events for people with Down syndrome. We organize interaction between professionals, parents, and persons with Down syndrome to support them in their effort to be not only the one who is receiving help, but to be also the one who creates. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Tatiana. And I would now like to introduce Robin Gibson from the UK. Robin is an Inclusive Participation Officer at both Down Syndrome International and Down Syndrome Association, United Kingdom. Some help from Sherry Bernard from South Africa. Robin is going to talk about work that the Down Syndrome International is doing through the CARES project, developing digital solutions for people with Down syndrome to participate.
Okay, hello. Thank you for inviting me to speak at this event. It's great to be here. I'm going to be talking about a project that I've just been part of. And we are also going to be hearing from someone who helped us called Sherry Brynard. So what is Explore with CAST? So last year we started a 12-week program that was with the Down Syndrome Association in the UK, who we work very closely with on this. We were being mentored by an organization called CAST, and the funders were the Comic Relief and the Paul Hamlin Foundation. And the reason we took part is because we believe that people with Down syndrome should be included in the work of organizations at all levels. So we're looking at new ways to make this more accessible, less intimidating, and more enjoyable for people. As we found during the coronavirus pandemic, lots of people were left without a means to communicate. A lot of the social activities they were doing stopped. And if they did not have the right support or the right tools to get online, people could become quite isolated quite quickly. So we think there's lots of work that can be done in this. And as the year's gone on, we have kind of found that actually there's been some real opportunities to learn this year. And we are going to continue with lots of our online remote communication. So this is something we're dedicated to developing within Down Syndrome International, within Down Syndrome Association, but also sharing all of our knowledge, working and tools that we create with other organisations so that people with Down syndrome can more easily take part in their work. So what did we do? We spent 12 weeks exploring a user needs statement, and we were working from, as a person with Down syndrome, when I'm working with organisations remotely, I need clear and accessible communication so I can understand and take part. So we started off with a large stakeholder kickoff. We had around 20 people there from various organisations, and we discussed the user needs statement. We talked about assumptions that we had, things that we thought we knew and things we weren't sure about. And we set ourselves some goals for what we wanted to happen over the next 12 weeks. So following the stakeholder kickoff, we got a team of people together. So this team included people with Down syndrome, it included organizations, and it included family members and parents. And we met every week to work on different areas of the problem. And some weeks we had lots of people there, 10, 15 people, and other weeks the group was a bit smaller. And it just depended what we were working on and what people were interested in. But as you can see, we had lots of fun working together. So what did we do? We spoke about the problem in detail, and we did this with a large group of stakeholders. We did extensive research, and much of this was carried out by group members who have Down syndrome, and they conducted interviews on our behalf. We spoke to people all around the globe and from all different backgrounds, people who had different levels of need, and different family members to get a real broad idea of where we could kind of help and support technology developing in this area. We spent a lot of time looking at products that already exist, because there are lots of really good tools that we could use together to make something special. We generated lots of ideas, and we created prototype ideas, which I'll talk about in a moment. So on the left-hand side, you can see a picture, and that's just an example of one of our planning sessions. This is where we worked as a group to really think about the problem and what we needed to explore and what we needed to find out. And then we wrote a questionnaire from that. And as I said, everyone went out and conducted interviews, and we got some amazing feedback and knowledge from that. So now we're going to hear a bit from Sherry Breinard, who's going to talk about the project and the research and some of the things that we found out.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, I would like to discuss with you what we have learned in the CAST project. It is about the needs of many Down syndrome people who would like to use technology to communicate with other people. First, every person's situation is different, and we need different solutions to enable the Down syndrome population worldwide to use technology. Second, many people with Down syndrome prefer technology to be big, bold, and simple, to be the kinds of technology we know and use already, to be multimedia, such as we like to use, to be methods where we can make consistent contact with other people. Third, we often rely on a support person to make good use of digital material. In poor countries without a good infrastructure, the support person might not have the means or knowledge to help the person with Down syndrome. I think this research project identified certain challenges and possible solutions regarding the use of technology in my life, in South Africa, and also in other countries. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of the research.
Thank you, Sherry. So yeah, just a brief overview there of some of the things we found out. So what have we made? We now have 3 prototype ideas, And a prototype is a good way of showing what an idea may look like without spending lots of time and money. And it's not a finished product, but just a way of testing ideas. So the first is a communication system. So as Sherry said, we found out that lots of people with Down syndrome can use different applications, but often this may be an application that they're used to using. So we have made a basic infrastructure for what an app could look like. And this would be where we would receive lots of communications from different sources. So this may be someone sending us an SMS text, a WhatsApp message, a voice message, an email, maybe a private message on Facebook. And all of these messages would come into one place and one inbox, and we would be able to make sure that we send everyone back a message in the method that they prefer. So if someone finds listening to a message much easier, we can send them a voice message. And if they prefer Easy Read, we could send them a picture of Easy Read. But having it all in this one place, it was agreed by organizations that this would make communication much easier and much quicker. And we'd be able to communicate with a large amount of people in a way that they understood, so that we could encourage some more back and forwards communication. So yeah, that's our first prototype. Second prototype is a simple communication app. And this would be a template app which other organizations could download and use themselves. It would be a place for self-advocacy groups and other networks of people who have Down syndrome to communicate with their peers, to be able to communicate in a safe place, and also contact organizations directly. You can see at the bottom, so that would be a direct line to the Down Syndrome Association helpline if anybody wanted to talk about anything with Down Syndrome Association. So the final prototype we have is a series of processes and training, and these are for overcoming barriers to accessing technology. So obviously we did come across situations where people were unable to use technology at all. And sometimes this may be because they did not have access to a device, or maybe their family members were resistant to them using it. There's lots of different reasons this might be. So we looked at different ways to overcome these barriers. And one of these would be sending people devices with our communication app preloaded onto them. And these would be free devices. And we have been exploring some funding options, especially in the UK. And if this was successful, it's something that we could look at sharing a kind of process for organizations around the globe. We also looked at different training options so that people support would find it easier to use the technology. We've found often that it's the first hurdle that people struggle. They are uncomfortable or uncertain about downloading new applications, starting these programs up, allowing access to mics, to cameras. And we did find that some one-to-one communication with people on how to do this really helps. So an example would be, we have some self-advocacy groups which people wanted to take part in, but they were not comfortable using Zoom, and they weren't sure how it worked. So we spent some time with them speaking over the phone and downloading the applications while we're on the phone, signing in, and just having 10-15 minutes to explain how the application works. And just that short amount of time spent with someone meant that they have been able to take part in our self-advocacy group, which takes place weekly. So that's really great. So what are our next steps of the project? Well, we have already actually started a new 10-week program, which is called Definition, Once again, we're working with CAST and also Catalyst, which is an offshoot of CAST. And the next 10 weeks are being funded by the National Lottery Community Fund. So thank you very much for that. We're working with tech consultants from an organization called Outlandish, and they are helping us make our prototypes into real products. So we hope to have some applications which we will be able to share with other organizations, and they will be able to use their own branding and make these apps their own. And we'll be sharing these so that people with Down syndrome can more easily take part in the work of organizations. It's something that we're dedicated to, and we really look forward to seeing what comes from the next 10 weeks from this program. So thanks for letting me come and speak at this event, and I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. The next speakers are Julie Cattell and Bob McDonald from Google Research in the United States. They are going to talk about the advances they have made with Project Euphorina. The aim of this project is to improve connections by voice recognition technology and to promote independence. Please see our handouts section if you would like more information about this project.
Okay, hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about Project Euphonia, which goal is to improve speech recognition technology for people who have Down syndrome and other types of condition that can impact the speech. My name is Julie. I'm a product manager in Google Research.
And I'm Bob McDonald. I'm a technical program manager working with Julie in Google Research.
So first, if you think about smart speakers and in general assistive technology, they can play a very important role in making people more independent. This type of technology can allow people to turn the lights on and off, or change the temperature, or play some music at home and things like that. But unfortunately, they don't always work reliably for people who have Down syndrome or non-standard speech. So what we're trying to do as part of Project Euphonia is to use artificial intelligence to help people who have difficulty being understood by others, but also by computers, communicate more easily and also gain independence. So because I mentioned the word artificial intelligence, let me start by explaining a little bit about what we mean by that. So the goal of AI is to essentially teach computers to do specific tasks. The example on this slide is an algorithm that was trained to distinguish pictures from cats from pictures of dogs. We start by doing what we call the training process, where we essentially show to the machine learning algorithms a lot of examples, in this case pictures, together with the label dog or cat. The more examples you have, the better your algorithm will get at distinguishing a cat from a dog. So this is the phase called training that requires a lot of data. And then there's also inference, which is once you have a model that has already been trained and you want to use it to detect what is on a photograph. So in our case, we can look at a picture and ask the machine learning model, is this a cat or a dog? If it gets it right, great. And if not, you can use the picture as another example to continue to improve your algorithm. For speech recognition, we use this technology as well, but instead of pictures of cats and dogs, we use speech samples recorded by people together with the transcription of what they said. The issue with speech recognition today, and the reason why it doesn't work so well for people who have Down syndrome or other types of conditions, is that we don't have a lot of examples of how these people sound like. So what we're trying to do with this project is to gather training data, so speech samples basically, so that we can do a better job at recognizing the voice of others. Now we'll play a short video, which is a partnership between Project Euphonia and the Canadian Down Syndrome Society. And I'll just go ahead and play the video.
Playing your jogging playlist. It will take you 7 minutes to get there by public transportation. Here's a summary from Baseball Hall of Fame.
My name is Matthew McNeil. I live in Toastbrook, Ontario. I went to Peterborough at Fleming College.
Hey Google, set thermostat to 78 degrees.
My apologies, I don't understand.
My daughter, she has a smaller mouth, she has a longer tongue. Picture talking with a marshmallow in your mouth.
Technologies that are activated by voice commands are becoming a way of life.
Scheduling and reminders, practicing phrases, speaking to friends.
For people where that doesn't work, that must feel very sort of disempowering, or like they're being sort of left behind.
I see him being able to not need to rely on others as much.
Hey Google, what is the weather in California?
We're all very excited to partner with the Canadian Down Syndrome Society. The goal is to make speech recognition work better for people who have different types of speech.
I'm teaching Google.
I am teaching Google.
I'm teaching Google.
Thank you for coming to Google.
Thank you.
Out of the box, Google Speech Recognizer would not recognize every third word for a person with Down syndrome, and that makes the technology not very usable.
What we really need is for people with Down syndrome to volunteer, go on the website and record phrases and donate their voice.
I owe you a yo-yo today. Strawberry jam is sweet.
The more voices we have, the better the technology will get.
Hey Google, turn off the lights.
This is basically the fundamental frequency, and we kind of look at how these frequencies move, and that's corresponds to the words that you're saying.
When I started doing the project, first thing came to my mind is that it's really helping a lot of people be more independent.
I think voice technology is so important to give a voice to the voiceless. I think that's fantastic that we live in a world where that is even possible.
Hey Google, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Well, partnerships like that one with Canadian Down Syndrome Society have motivated thousands of people to reach out to us here at Project Euphonia and indicate that they're interested in having their voices put into this training program. So you can see that there was a sharp uptick in the number of people that reached out to us, and that happened to coincide with the launch of Project Understood. And subsequent to that, we've collected over 100,000 utterances from people in the Down syndrome community. We also work with people whose speech is impaired by other conditions like ALS. And this little video will give you an idea of what we're doing with this research as we're collecting the data.
Yeah, I have a friend, timely thing. Today was a hospital day, which meant I had to get up at 6 to be in hospital by 9. This is for a clinical trial I'm doing on something called.
So you can see this woman who's a trusted tester in our program is having a video call with Julie. And what she's doing is projecting the text that's being transcribed as she talks onto the video call to help Julie understand what she's saying. You'll notice it's still not perfect, but it very much helps Julie understand what she's saying on this call. The more data she contributes, the better her model will get, and that's our ultimate objective. How she got started was letting us know she was interested, and we're looking for many more volunteers like that. Once we hear from you, we'll send you some information about how you can get started recording voice samples using our tool called ChitChat, which is shown here on this slide. It's just a simple list of a variety of phrases of different types that help our model understand the way that you say certain words and phrases. And ultimately, our goal is to use those models to retrain these speech recognizers. As Julie mentioned, the more examples we have, the better we'll get. And anyone over 18 can get started. The first step is to fill out our interest form. And you can also get more information about the project from our website, which is g.co/euphonia. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you will visit our website and that we will hear back from you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Julie and Bob. I would also like to welcome Natalia Suzaminska, a local administrative employee from Poland. Her presentation is called Mission is Possible. It emphasizes the importance of connections in this employment.
Nazywam się Natalia Szymańska. Dzięki Stowarzyszeniu Otwarte Drzwi znalazłam pracę w Mazowieckim Urzędzie Wojewódzkim, w którym są bardzo mili, przyjaźni ludzie, którzy mi pomagają w pracy. Zajmuję się przygotowaniem kopert do wysyłki, niszczeniem starych dokumentów w niszczarce i nie tylko.
Pani Natalia od wielu lat należy do Stowarzyszenia Otwarte Drzwi. Aktywnie bierze udział w różnych zajęciach w ośrodku na Warszawskiej Woli i właśnie tam na zajęciach między innymi teatralnych nabyła wiele umiejętności, które dały jej lepszy start zawodowy. W oparciu o model zatrudnienia wspomaganego zdobyła doświadczenie na lobby w restauracjach i to były jej pierwsze kroki na otwartym rynku pracy. A później pojawiła się nowa możliwość próbki pracy w Mazowieckim Urzędzie Wojewódzkim. Pani Natalia nawiązała wiele nowych przyjaźni w ośrodku partnerzy. Bardzo duże znaczenie ma też dobra współpraca ośrodka z rodziną pani Natalii, która jest bardzo otwarta na nowe wyzwania i też wspierająca dla pani Natalii.
Że praca dla osób z niepełnosprawnościami intelektualnymi może się znaleźć w każdej dużej firmie. Zatrudnianie takich osób nie jest żadnym eksperymentem, nie jest również heroizmem, to po prostu normalność, no a poza tym przyzwoitość względem tych osób. Wynagrodzenie, które otrzymują za swoją pracę, satysfakcja z tej pracy po prostu im się należy. Należy im się to również z powodu tego, że tak jak inni ludzie mają prawo do wynagradzanej pracy. Szczęście, które bije z twarzy tych pracowników, dla nas pracodawców jest nagrodą, ale także jest świetną motywacją i zachętą do pracy, do jeszcze lepszej pracy dla pozostałych pracowników.
I would like to introduce Dominique Cantal from Argentina and Lord O.D. Acosta from Uganda. They are going to talk about their work. They are members of the tax team involved in developing guidelines to help organizations to connect with and include people with intellectual disabilities in their work. This is a joint product of Inclusion International and Down Syndrome International called Listen, Include, Respect.
¿Cómo son las pautas?
The guidelines are laid out steps for organizations to have people with intellectual disabilities to be included in the work of the organization.
¿Cómo ayudan las pautas a las organizaciones a conectarse con personas con discapacidad intelectual?
The guidelines identify the barriers and solutions so that people with intellectual disabilities can be included. Organizations will know the reasonable accommodations which people with intellectual disabilities need to be included in the work of the organization. How have you been involved in making the guidelines in online meetings and being part of the task team?
Me postulé con video y después participé en completando los resultados de las encuestas y también estoy haciendo el resumen de cada capítulo de la vida con mi persona de apoyo. Al principio me costó un poco más, pero gracias a mi persona de apoyo lo puedo hacer bien.
Why is it important that you are both involved?
Porque nada de nosotros, sin nosotros. Una cosa es cómo así, como tuviéramos incluirlo, pero estamos incluirlo realmente. Estamos haciendo algo para que pueda la persona incluirlo en todos los diferentes contextos. Y estaría bueno que la persona con discapacidad esté desde el principio. Es mucho mejor para todos.
What are the main barriers and what solutions are there to help organizations connect with people with intellectual disabilities?
Las principales barreras son la comunicación y la sociedad. La discriminación, que también existen los mitos, que somos angelitos, que no podemos, que no somos capaces. Y las soluciones se basan en acciones para generar conciencia y empoderamiento. Y sobre todo, que pueda ser accesible y capacitarnos. Y brindar accesibilidad para asegurarse que los apoyos sean accesibles y razonables.
The difference will be very big if organizations adopt them. First of all, the understanding of the barriers which people with intellectual disabilities are facing by the organizations is key. After understanding all these, it will be easier for people with intellectual disabilities to be included in the works of the organizations. Reasonable accommodation will be given to the people with intellectual disabilities according to their needs. The organizations will try to adjust their working conditions to try and accommodate people with intellectual disabilities, like accessibility.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We have now reached the end of our 10th World Down Syndrome Day conference. I would now like to welcome back Andrew Boyce from the Down Syndrome International to give you a message from the Down Syndrome International to take away from this event.
Hello again. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, people with disabilities, including those with Down syndrome, have been at higher risk than others of being negatively impacted and have been less likely to be included in response plans. One key feature of the global pandemic has been the need to adapt the ways we all connect and communicate with each other. This adaptation has been a huge challenge globally in 2020 and into 2021. The knowledge and information we've shared during the 10th World Down Syndrome Day conference has made a few things really clear. that connections are of paramount importance for everybody, including people with intellectual disabilities and Down syndrome. That people with disabilities, in particular people with intellectual disabilities and Down syndrome, are less likely than others to be able to connect. And this issue has got worse during COVID-19. That specifically in education, loss of connection and inclusion during COVID-19 has had a huge negative impact on the amount of and the quality of education that learners with Down syndrome have received. But that since the beginning of the COVID-19 crisis, solutions have been found and others are being developed to break down those barriers to connecting. So what needs to happen now? What are the key messages we should take away from this conference? Well, there is a need for us, the global Down syndrome community, to work together as key stakeholders during and beyond the COVID-19 pandemic, to build on the learning and the solutions found and those being developed, and use the opportunity to establish new means to connect in effective, meaningful, and inclusive ways. We need to ensure that people with intellectual disabilities and Down syndrome are included in the development of these solutions and in plans being made at international, national, and local levels on issues that affect them, to make sure that we can best meet their needs, and to empower self-advocates and advocates to speak up, to ensure the human rights of people with intellectual disabilities and Down syndrome, which relate to connections, are upheld and that they're not left behind. They have the right to be able to connect on an equal basis with others. This is of vital importance, both now during the COVID-19 response and beyond. Over time, such measures will improve well-being and quality of life for people with intellectual disabilities and Down syndrome. They will open up opportunities to contribute more fully to their communities in all areas of their lives. And they will promote understanding, reduce prejudice, and reinforce social inclusion in society. Now, Down Syndrome International would like to thank all those who took part in this event at a time when the COVID-19 pandemic is causing disruption and uncertainty in everybody's lives. It's testimony to the value and importance of these issues that we've made this happen. We are also extremely grateful to our sponsors, the permanent missions of Australia, Brazil, Japan, Mexico, and Poland to the United Nations in New York, and also to UNICEF and International Disability Alliance for your support. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And thank you to all of our speakers today for sharing your knowledge, views, and experiences. It is clear that connections is vital for people with Down syndrome and intellectual disabilities. Moving forward, we need to learn from the barriers faced, develop solutions to connecting, so that people with Down syndrome and intellectual disabilities are not left behind. Thank you for watching today on GoToWebinar and the UN Web TV for your time and support. Goodbye.